ERA Global is the place, is the destination. If you're looking to distribute your product, if you're trying to find a way to scale and get global impact and get global reach for your product, you have to be here. This event can change your life. So don't miss it. Make sure you come here. And guys, come to the show. Don't miss it. This is the place to be.
All right. So directly to my right here, we have Bray, who's the founder and CEO of Synergy. They run a commerce program, fulfillment 3PL out of Memphis. On the other end, we have Yasir, who is the CEO of Inventel. And then we have Anand, who is the founder and CEO of Intersell. So all these guys have been dealing with not only domestic US distribution of product into retail, into e-com, into marketplace, but also into global relationships. So I think you're gonna have to turn that mic on right in front of you there. I'm just gonna jump in right here with you, Yasir. From a standpoint of how are you guys responding to the tariff situation, where are you rediverting manufacturing? Are you rediverting product globally? What's part of the strategy and the plan to thinking about how we can, from the global audience, respond to this?
Well, thanks for having me. These guys are good over here. So look, it's all of the above, right? So we are employing all of the strategies. When tariffs hit, like none of us knew this is going to happen. We knew something is going to happen, but not that dramatic. So we had planned our entire 2025. So we had bought all of the inventory, bring it in. So because we have two businesses, we have the OEM business and we have the TV business in US. So we bring all the inventory for 2025. And when the tariffs hit, we were like, okay, this is the new reality. There's no other way to look at it. So you can do China +1, you can do like a rerouting of the goods, but in the end, this is the new reality. What we have done as a company, the most effective tool that we have is the trade-free zones. So we bring the inventory in US and we put them in trade-free zones. Like, we only pay the duty when we take them out of the trade-free zones. So that helped us a little bit when the whole 155% and all of that stuff was happening. So we are putting the merchandise in duty-free zones. So that helped us.
Like bonded warehouses?
Not bonded. They're called duty-free zones. Like, so where you don't have to pay the duty, you only pay them when they leave those zones. So you can look them up there. Many states have it, many ports have it. So we did that. We are also looking at diversification, but to be honest with you, no country is ready for that kind of volume. Because for us, volume is everything, and China is the only place where it's helping us with many things. So duty-free zones is what's helping us. The other way is like just buying the inventory. In the past, we had to buy inventory for like 90-day rolling forecast. Now you have to carry 26 weeks, 30 weeks, 40 weeks. So you have to plan ahead. So it became a money game now.
You have to commit earlier and heavier then.
That's it. So that's some of the things we have done.
And we've seen it from some of our clients, this challenge of they still have to bring the product in, like especially seasonal items that are only going to sell like in a certain part of it. It didn't matter what the tariff was at the time. You still had to bring it in or you were going to lose the market. You just had to take the haircut. Have you seen any of your retail partners in that space say, hey, this is on you. We're not taking the cut. We're not sharing in it.
Well, of course. So when you sell to Walmart is not buying the goods now. They're not buying it for tomorrow. We are planning our Q1, Q2s for 26. So those prices that we gave Walmart have already been given to them. They already have planograms established. So they're not going to take the hit. We can cry all we want to them. So in the end, we are taking the hit. The funny part of this is these policies that have been designed to help the consumer, in the end, the consumer is going to pay more for it. Eventually, Q3, Q4 of 26 is when this is going to get all passed on to the consumer.
Now, Brian, in the marketplace stuff that was going on, you guys made some pretty quick adjustments as well when it comes to price, right?
Correct. Yeah, we certainly were surprised, just like a lot of people out there. I think certainly when you look at some of the smaller sellers out there who got really dinged by this problem and certainly had the inability to absorb these types of tariffs. One of the things that we did at Synergy, we said to ourselves, all right, well, we had some product in-house. We were pretty lucky from that standpoint that we had a good amount of product in our warehouse. But we said to ourselves, we understand we've got to buy more, we've got to get prepped for the fourth quarter. What are our retails going to look like by the time the fourth quarter comes around? So what we started doing was experimenting with the price points and advertising and increasing the price points. And what we found was, we said, hey, let's try to make a little bit more margin now before we have to order new products in. But what we were pleasantly surprised with was that the higher retails held. So I think from a perspective of the American consumer, I think it was just so much on social media, so much on the news, that people were saying, geez, I'm gonna spend $50 more for this item or $100 more for this item. So our sales went down, our sales volume went down by a little bit, but our margin increased. And then that allowed us to have the confidence to say, okay, well, if we have to buy containers at this higher tariff, we think we can absorb it. So I think that's from the US perspective, but certainly from companies like ours, where we just hit a little bit of the panic button and started making all the calls in the bonded warehouses, and trying to find solutions for saying, hey, how do we turn it's tough to say, but how do you turn this negative situation into a positive and expand globally? That was what our strategy is, and certainly one of the reasons why I'm here at the show.
Well, I think obviously from a standpoint of the way we see not only the adjustment, I think it was smart tactics, right? It really smart tactics to adjust the price to what the price is going to be and see if the consumer still continues to buy it. Who knows? If the tariff goes back down, maybe you don't drop the price. Maybe it creates, and I know in our history with Blackstone, what we saw was if we created scarcity in the market of the product and the demand was still there, we could hold a higher price point and still have high demand because it just wasn't available. Or when it came back available, we would see frenzy buying on it. So if the thing was coming in and out of stock in that sense, we could have a message and get crazy spikes out of it. And that was a program we ran for 10 years now, creating scarcity, right? When it comes to scale, though, I think scale's hard to adjust that price when you're dealing with large retail volumes of that nature, because the margin you're going to get the haircut on, they're not going to change the price so heavily on you. So when you start to look at not only the U.S. market, but the global markets, did you redirect any goods globally? Did you start pushing things out in different ways? I know with like Wolfgang Puck, that was a situation where he said, okay, divert $6 million worth of stuff over to Australia. Don't sell it in the U.S.
It's actually quite tough to do that, mainly because of approvals. So if you have goods in the U.S., it may not be really suited for Europe, right? So you're stuck with the goods. But I'll just speak for the U.S. side. I mean, I think the thing about tariffs that we all forget, it is a level playing field, right? Tariffs affect everybody in the United States. So, to Brian's point, what we did was we went on offense. We just said, hey, we could diversify our sourcing in all these different countries, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, look everywhere. The truth of the matter is China was always the best place. And so what can we do? We can market differently. We can raise our price because the consumer is paying a higher price everywhere. And then, so that was a big part of it. And then really upsell funnels, get your AOV higher. So you really got to really think through how to get the highest order value out of a consumer rather than just making that first sale. Or if you're going to be at a lower price, you better find a way to get that AOV up. And those are two of the things that we've really spent a lot of time on.
So Yasir, from a sourcing standpoint, how far ahead were you in thinking of where to get the product manufactured? And had you made adaptations already? I know some of our clients had already set up parallel manufacturing in different countries and trying to figure out, okay, well, if the tariff is 70% here and it's 20% there, we're going to take additional inventory from one location as opposed to the next. Did you do any parallel pieces or just stay in the pocket?
So I agree with none. We stuck to China. We said, instead of diversifying and trying to go on this goose hunt, which is not existent. The other countries are not ready. They might be ready, but we stuck to China. We started buying larger volumes, negotiate a better price. We also have a strategy in place where we have a DDP price, it's delivery duty paid. So the China vendor pays everything door to door. and what they do, like, we sort of don't want to know, but we know what they do. So, like, we have that in place for a lot of our stuff. And from our perspective, what we did is, like, we are looking at it like, so that 5x margin, 4x margins, those are gone now. Like, so we are looking for 7, 8, 9x margin products, which we can absorb, like, we can do that. So that's the strategy that we have in play right now. So we're looking for high margin goods. We are buying better, buying in more volume, buying ahead of time, putting in bonded warehouse. So it's a like cumulative thing that we're trying to do, all of the strategies in place.
It's always a challenge because you're navigating unknown waters, right? So I think from a marketer and from groups that don't have the capacity just to load up, right? They don't have the cash to say, okay, we're going to go heavy in and we're just going to get more items and we're going to ride out the storm. I think for smaller groups and smaller manufacturers and smaller, product marketers, I think it's going to create a challenge for entry to market, and it should likely be of a benefit to those of us who have a knowledge, ability, and a cash position to be able to drive that level. Do you see that kind of future going forward, and how tariffs are going to maybe create some of that path?
Look, for sure, we are loving it because we have the cash on the balance sheet. So it's become like, you have the money, you can afford it, you do it. If you don't have the money, like those days are gone, where a small guy can, come in, buy the inventory on monthly, 60-day basis and make the product work. So from our perspective, this is good for us, and like these guys are saying, we're passing the cost, we're buying better, so it's all become about more you can buy, the more buying power you have, the better you can control your destiny.
It's likely got to be a put you in a position like, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well, as when you go into retail, that capability to go in and say, hey, I need you, is the demand higher from them, or do you have to look at it and say, I got to invest more to hold my spot?
I mean, I think you got to really have the clout with the retailers. If you're dealing with Walmart or Target, it's really, really tough. For us, we're a smaller vendor to those retailers, so we don't have the power really to be able to have them pay up. But I had heard of deals where they were splitting the tariffs. So, I think you just have, if you're at retail, if you're a smaller player, you can't really take risk unless you're really in a power position with the retailer, which is kind of rare. So our game is direct to consumer. And if there's a retail opportunity and if the numbers work, okay, we'll do it. Other than that, we have to be real careful on the retail side.
So our larger brands, same thing, similar. They just took in more product, right? They took in a ton more product and loaded the warehouses. But that does put you in a carrying cost situation that can be a challenge. How does that affect from a warehousing side of it, Bray, and the philosophy of what you need to prepare for and bringing that inventory in? Because if you're betting big, you got to have big space.
Right. Yeah, from our perspective, we also offer services we're a full service 3PL. So unfortunately, what we saw across the board is this kind of sell off of a lot of the products that were already in our warehouse. So from a cash flow standpoint of us running our own business by providing services for others, we certainly said to ourselves, hey, we need to get out ahead of this as quickly as possible. And one of the things that we focused on is saying, hey, we need to utilize our cash flow quickly and pull the trigger on, just like Yasir was saying, those higher margin focused items. We also we're in a position because we handle reverse logistics as well. So we were able to really shift our focus to putting a lot more of our attention on the refurbished products that were returns that were already in our facility. So we ramped up staff. We used our dollars to buy higher margin products from China. And we also used our capital to ramp up staff to run down our production lines, the product returns that we handle for a lot of companies, and saying, hey, we're going to sell these refurbished products. That's good for us. And then it's also good for the brands that we handle all their refurbs for, because that's turning it into cash for them too, because we're all under the same headache.
So as an offset model to use the return inventory to still increase volume of sales.
Correct.
Did you drive the price up higher on the refurb too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think the American people are just saying, hey, we're just going to spend X more dollars on these items. Like Anand was saying, is that it's a level playing field, and that worked well for us from the refurb perspective as well. I think the other thing that we worked out with the brands that we handle a lot of the returns for is we said, hey, listen, we should be really focusing on selling of these returns to say, hey, these returns are selling for a higher dollar amount. You should put more focus on bringing in those units and selling those units as brand new in the U.S. as well too. So we really did have a lot of shifting and a lot of late night meetings trying to come up with plans of that cash management standpoint for sure.
That first 3 months of panic, I'm sure, was quite a bit because, look, we had, from Bluewater's perspective, we had shows canceled, we have campaigns canceled. They were just like, we're just not doing it anymore. It's not happening. So I think to some of the consolidation starts to happen, but it also starts to drive you to a consumer behavior changes, right? And like, are you seeing any of the interaction, like because you're the first, you're the canary, right, out there in the mine. You see it first, and we see it first in the direct response business. Had you seen more, calls that didn't convert? Did your conversions go down? Did you see any transition there? Do you see? Did you rely into, more outbound to pre-existing customers? Any strategies that?
No, I mean, I would say that you gotta get really dialed in on all, levels of your funnel. Like, you really got to get your CRM going. You have to get your top of funnel. You got to be a little bit on Meta. You got to be a little bit on TV, and you just got to be able to measure it very accurately to know where to, throttle down, right? When you have the right marketing channel that's working for you. But you got to try everything. I mean, right now we're trying TikTok. We're trying the affiliate model on TikTok, right? That's a great way to sell low-priced items, right? D2C is a great way to sell high-priced items, right? So on the TikTok affiliate model, I can't say I've had success with it yet, but it's a commission base. It's based on sales. So, but you have to be very committed to sending a lot of samples out and getting the creators to create content and hopefully get your message out. But it's too early to say if it's going to work, but we are trying, and I think that's the key. You got to try. You're either trying or you're dying. So try what works, measure it accurately, and really go for it if you can find it. So I think you just got to be highly experimental. But as far as conversion, honestly, it's been consistent.
Okay.
And I don't think people should really shy away from higher price points. I think it's what's required right now in order to succeed. And I think, as these guys are seeing, it's actually working better.
Yeah,
so it's a little surprising.
It's across the board. To your point earlier, like the fact that tariffs have affected everybody means that they can carry across. We've seen some like our brands that are more established, they have the brand resilience to fly through it, and they can stomach it because they have these highly loyal followings. So they can just go, okay, we're going to ride it out. But I think in the item business, I know, and Yasir, I don't know if you guys are seeing this because you guys handle brands and item-based business, right? Are you seeing that kind of any differentiation between how tariffs are affecting sales in item-based versus more brand-focused items?
For sure, like Anand said, it's all about attribution, doing accurate attribution from the channel-specific attributions, and we are noticing a lot of that. So we are more dialed into the business than we were before. So we are looking at all of the full funnel approach. TikTok is becoming our number 3 channel now. So we are doing a lot of live. My son came in the business and he started dialing it in. I'm like, this is a joke, but then the numbers are there. So when
suddenly you're like, oh,
I was like, oh, okay.
Hi, son.
When you're getting 3,000-4,000 orders a day, so you're like, oh, okay. So this is something to look at. So we're more dialed into the business than we ever were before. So we're doing a lot of full funnel attributions, and we're doing smart things in US. For example, we switched to Amazon shipping. So that's saving us. So everybody's looking for the $1 or $2 extra to compensate for the tariffs. So we're more dialed in than we ever were. So it's a good thing, sort of that's pushing all of us because our backs are against the wall. So we are doing it. And on the same notion, we bought a couple businesses here in US. We bought a company called Meaty. Meaty is like a micro protein company. They take a mycelium and they grow it in 2,500 pounds in 3-4 days. So we bought the company, made in US. We are doing Bosley, like in US now. We also invest in a brand called Sugar MD. So it's all, so everybody, our focus is more like, okay, we have to do some diversification. So the answer is not finding China plus one or trying to do shady ways and beating the tariff. And we're too big to do that. So we're trying to find solutions here stateside, trying to save $1 or $2 extra to compensate for those tariffs. So everybody's dialed in right now.
It's diversification, really. I think you're hearing it. And I think it also forces you to look at your business pretty hard, right? It makes you take the step back and maybe look at the thing you weren't, like, you know what, you weren't so worried about that, but now that nickel or that dime or that dollar, means a little bit more.
And I think what he's doing, right, he's getting into some consumables, and I think that's a very important, category to look at. I mean, there's some people in this industry who have pivoted into consumables, and they've been quite successful doing it. So we really haven't been able to accomplish that yet, but it's definitely a category that we're looking at. And I think, obviously there's consumables manufactured in the U.S., no tariffs, small to ship, consumable, and recurring revenue. Sounds amazing to me.
Yeah, sign me up.
Well, let's talk about that. Are U.S. manufacturing, is that on the horizon for you guys? Are you considering at all? I know you both said, hey, we're staying with China, but I mean, is there a point where you're looking out and going, maybe that shop in Alabama that's making furniture is now a choice?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. For us personally, we've not really explored too much of that. I think that as the uncertainty of the tariffs just jumping up so high almost overnight and not giving the American companies enough time to adjust. It's not like, hey, in 30 days the tariff is going to go up. That was really problematic. I think it all just like hit everybody, and it just saying like, well, tomorrow they're going to 145 it's just shocking. So I think that equally, we're also all watching the news, watching the stock market to see, hey, are these tariffs going to come down? But again, it's kind of like your point about sticking with China or the China plus one. Can we go to India? Can we start sourcing cookware from India? Yeah, that's going to take some time, but the uncertainty could be that next thing you know, India now has a high tariff. And so same kind of thing with the US. Us personally, we've not had the relationships with manufacturers in the US for the particular products that we sell. We're more of the items with a plug that go on your kitchen counter. But certainly I think that it's opening the door, like you said, to we talked about some companies that do have some manufacturing in the US, and certainly good for them because they can start reaching out to companies like ours for sure.
So we work with a company that was at one point the largest manufacturer of metal furniture, outdoor furniture in America. They were the number one provider to Home Depot, and in the years they went to nothing. Well, new investment came in, bought the factories, retooled the factories, and I looked at the guy when he was doing it, and I'm like, you've lost your damn mind. This is pre-tariff. And now I look at him and I go, you're the smartest son of a bitch I've ever met. Like, you saw this coming somehow and you were ahead of it, and you bought factories in the US at a very, very, very low price and were able to retool. And now coming back out, he's competing on the price in metal and aluminum furniture back in the US, and he can now reapproach the market. So there is some benefits to the tariff on that side of it.
Yeah. The question I have though, US manufacturing, China manufacturing is, of course, the tooling, producing things with efficiency and with quality control is not easy, and it's not overnight, and it takes forever. We have another thing called minimum wage, right? I mean, and the cost to produce things.
Unless you're in Alabama or Mississippi.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. So I don't know. I don't know how the math works. I don't know of many examples where if it's a hard good where U.S. manufacturing has really ever been more competitive than China. But maybe in 10 years, 15 years, but I still think you have the cost of labor is can be really challenging.
I think the category that we've seen that have some effect is metal items that are getting huge high tariffs. Where at one point it was like 75% on on steel, and you're like, okay, well, what the hell? What are we going to do with that? That means you either have to diversify how you're making the product or whatnot, or that does make the case at that high of a tariff that you can compete by manufacturing here. But then it's timeline, right? How fast can you get that product back in the market? Are you looking 2 years out? Are you looking 3 years out? I know you've acquired a couple of companies here, like, and you are technically manufacturing. You're manufacturing food, but you are manufacturing here now, right?
Right, we are. So like these guys said, your $2 item, like your dollar item, it doesn't matter if the tariff is 150%. You're still going to buy them from China, because like you're just not going to get US to scale up that fast, that quick. So tariffs are not going away. Like, tariffs are here for good, because now the US government has the taste of the money. So even if they drop, I don't think they'll ever go lower than 20%. Like, that's my opinion. Like, right now they're 35, 40%, depending on where you land them, but they're not going to go away. So this is on a baseline, it's going to be at least 15 to 20%. So you have to just factor this in, and just go accordingly.
Has this at all philosophically changed your vision on international expansion of your brands? And to the groups in this room that are all here internationally, has it caused you to say, hey, you guys, let's play a little bit more, let's target a little bit more, and providing the toolkits that get you there?
Yes and no. So I mean, for me, international is like, there, but like the volume is in US, right? So 85% of our revenue comes from US. Like, and then you have 2 or 3 major players, like, that will do the rest of the volume. But if your 85% concentration is US, overnight you can't shift that, like, and say, okay, where do I find a customer that's going to make up for that revenue? So it's just not practical to like overnight do it. Yeah, gradually can you do it? Can you run some territories direct? Like, I'd love to go buy a few of international guys, because the problem is a lot of international guys come here and they go to like 20 people like us, and they go back home, they have 200 items to choose from. Like, they really don't have the bandwidth to test all 200 items.
Right.
Like, so can we come up with a strategy where we say, hey, we'll fund the media, we'll like sponsor the cost of goods, let's do a joint venture. Like, so those are all conversations we are happening behind the door right now, behind the scene. But like, it's not practical for international partners who are not the size of US partners to like, carry that much load for, like, and expect that revenue volume from them.
In our coming ups in the next segment, we're going to be talking about a little about AI tools and how that's going to affect, but kind of, and Anand, I don't know if you've seen it as well, but from our perspective on the creative side of it, we're getting a lot more requests for, okay, give me the full global package. Like, give me the US, go ahead and make it for me in Spanish, go ahead and make it for me in French, go ahead and make it for me in German, because AI is enabling that. You think there's any opportunity in there for with the combination of 1, the tariff costs, and 2, enabling the global market to be more of the share?
I do. I mean, I think, we all congregate here at ERA, and there's great partners. And I think, if you're not doing international business, then you absolutely should be doing international business, because there's so many of these, it really is a great business, and it's basically a less risky business than marketing your products in the United States on your own and not having to carry warehouses full of inventory. So to make their jobs easier, I think doing things like the things you're suggesting, like localizing shows and giving them a turnkey marketing solution, certainly will get your products tested faster. And knowing the criteria, knowing their margin requirements, knowing the formats of shows that they need. And then sure, if you could go to that next step and you could localize it and translate it for them with AI, you would be a great partner,
Is it incremental though? Or is it core?
It's just
like the strategy of hitting that, like if you do all those things, is it incremental to the business, or is it really core to the business? Does it grow? You see it growing forward to where you say it's 15% right now of the business. Is it going to be 20? Is it going to be 25%? Is it going to be 30?
I mean, for sure. I mean, it has to be gradual, right? Like, we have to do a lot of testing. Like Anand said, maybe we can be better partners to the international guys, do turnkey, say, hey, test this, like here's 1,000 units, test for free. So all of those things, right? But like, it's not there right now. Like, can it be? Yes. So we're going to focus on it. Like, I said we are all looking at things differently, trying to dial into the business more. So we are focused on it.
And I do think there's one great value that sometimes gets lost in all these conferences is actually the information sharing, right? The knowledge share, because there are some great strategies that someone may be employing in another market that you're not using in the United States. Well, let's trade some great strategies. And then even on the marketing side, okay, like we all know we need to be on Meta, but are we really giving everyone the ads that are performing? Are we really giving them the best chance of making that product work in social media? And
Right.
It's not just a long form and okay, have at it. It's what else can you supply that partner with to do more and be more successful for them and you.
I think it's that asset stack is where it comes down to, right? If we can step back from it, and does the need for globalization more for U.S. companies lead to better marketing packages prepared and put together for your global partners? And certainly, and we'll talk more about it, the capability in AI in a minute to be about the possibilities of how you can really start to strip that out. And once you've got the working package, how quickly you can replicate, customize, and drive down that path. So open up to the audience for these guys while we're still talking about tariffs. Questions, thoughts, comments? No volunteers in the room. There we go.
Just one question, really. I'm just intrigued from what you were saying. And you think, well, what do you think the inflationary impact, the consumer inflationary impact of the tariffs would be? What's it done to what you're charging for like product?
What Ed asked was what's the inflationary impact of what tariffs are causing in the U.S. and how that could, potentially affect it. I think you spoke a little bit to it, Brian, what you guys did. So very specifically, how much did you increase the cost, of the price of the product, not the cost?
Right. Yeah, and that's a great question. I mean, what we did was we forecasted how many units we had left of a particular item, and said, okay, well, let's do our pricing to make sure that we're not selling out, but at least going to get the product in the door by the time it sells out. So we don't want to have it to go to zero. And so we were able to do a little bit of that, not having to do with the tariffs, but last year. So oftentimes during the Black Fridays and the fourth quarter, what we're doing is we're actually raising prices to make sure we're not going to sell out. So we did that with the tariff issue. And it just seemed to continue to go up and up and up, and the customer was willing to pay it. And it was an interesting dynamic to do the numbers, the math of like, okay, well, we sold 15% less widgets this week, but we made more margin. And so we just started doing that with each and every item that we have out there. And we didn't overprice the item. We didn't try to get the tariffs and then some. Maybe that might be a good strategy to do, but we at least got it to the point where we could absorb the tariff if we continued to have to. And once we got to that, then we said, okay, let's continue to order the containers because we feel the confidence. But
one of the most recent reports that just came out from the government in U.S. government was on consumer food prices and where it's gone. And it's up on average 20% year over year. So the inflationary measures are starting to kick in. Are you guys at all concerned about inflation measures kicking in and expendable income starting to drop, or free flow of cash starting to drop? And how are you kind of preparing for that? We just got geopolitical right there.
Yeah, we sure did.
I mean, that's actually what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about a true disposable income correction, and that is the risk that I think I don't have an answer for that one. I don't know. I guess you probably the answer on the direct to consumer side is you probably have to go to lower price points, but then you really got to work your upsell funnels, and you got to get back to where you were. I think that's probably the only way to really correct for that. As for retail, that's a hard one.
Yeah, like you said, we're focused on average order value, increasing it. It's just a $50. Can we up it to $60? We haven't increased prices yet. So but that's coming probably the Q2, Q3 of 26. It's coming because our programs are more. When we launch something, it's for a year and a half. So we haven't increased price, but what we have done is we've dialed into the AOVs, full funnel approach, attributions, like buy media better, like, do net more testing, like instead of testing 10 creatives a week on Meta, are we testing 20 and seeing what's working? And like, just trying to see if, like, before the threshold of investment was, okay, you know what, maybe 1.4 MER is better now, but now like, no, we gotta get at least 2. So work harder. Let's do more creative testing. So all of those things like we are doing right now.
Has it also led you to build out bigger CRM systems and really capture that customer data for remarketing?
Yeah, of course. Like, so that's, everybody's after that. That's holy grail, right? Like, can we get the customer data? Like, can we, like, get more of the database and like retarget, like, cross-sell? So all of that.
Yeah, yesterday we talked about, on the panel, we were talking a little bit about how brand engagement starts to happen in content, and those companies that were prepared with a decent organic content stream were able to weather the reduction. They actually reduced their ad spend, but because they had great organic content engagement, they were able to not lose sales value out of it because the organic content engagement continued to carry the weight. So I think there's that, like, obviously, it really what it comes down to in the tariff conversation is really about pricing resets. And is the U.S. consumer going to handle the pricing reset? Probably. It sounds like they are. Is the U.S. consumer gonna accept less product choice? Because it sounds like they're gonna have to. And are there gonna be less players in the market now that are driving it? Are you gonna see a consolidation in the providers and in the distributors? I mean, what's your thought on that side of it?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, like, for us, less competition is better. So
because Yasir's
we can afford to buy.
If you guys can't see it, he's smiling like a Cheshire cat over here. I think Yasir knows what's up and is putting.
I mean, we are investing in our team. So last year we had like 3 people in our organic social team. We have like close to 25 people now creating content. That's all they do all day long. So it's all about investing in, like, content, testing it from our perspective. Like, we have the buying power to do it. So we are loving the opportunity, like, so it's a challenge for a lot of people, but not for us because we have the cash that works for us.
Anand, did it change any of your tactics?
Yeah, I think you said it correctly. I think all those things are all working together, and there is a thinning out a little bit on the amount of sellers, the amount of competition. But that's offset, of course, by tariffs and higher prices. And I agree that organic is important. It's an important piece. It's just another part of that funnel to get awareness.
Marketing consolidation on the way. You didn't pick up on that. Now it's really about creating efficiencies in the process, which again we'll get into a little bit in the AI conversation. One more round of questions. Anybody with a question for the panel up here? It looks like, hey, thank you guys. I appreciate the insight. I appreciate everybody participating here. The bar is open. We're going to switch over to the next panel now. But yesterday I called out at the end of the panel that the bar was open, and the poor bartender looked at me like I was crazy because she had just closed. But you're still open over there right now, right? Yes. So get yourself a cold beer. If someone will grab me one, that'd be great.